Battery exhausted, she says. I'm fucking exhausted. Haha! Episode 4, here we go. This build is starting to get a little bit serious. It's a bit serious. So I'm going to take you through some serious things today. I'll try and be a prick as I go through, but it's not always possible. This is D-Day. This is where this build could turn to firewood. Quite possibly. We've got a couple of critical things to do. We've got to drill and mark our bridge positions and tailpiece. And I'm also going to shape this neck with a new technique that I've never used before. I have used it. I used it on some scrap wood. But I bought some router bits that cut neck profiles. So I don't have to put this in the neck jig. That's a nerve-wracking load of fucking things to do today, isn't it? So I'm going to take you through this video and I'm going to talk to you and try and let you inside my really dysfunctional barnet. And we'll go through this step by step as though you've never done this. I think that's probably the best bet, isn't it? The first thing we've got to do, I discussed in the last video, I'm going to angle my neck rather than the pocket. I'll probably only do that once. I've spoke to a few people about it. Everyone seems to have done it every which way they fancy, but I'm going to do that. But before we do that, we have to get our bridge positioned. And bridge positioning on a Gibson style guitar, with this style bridge, it doesn't give you a massive amount of adjustability for intonation. So we don't want to make a fucking house brick, do we? Welcome back everyone, Marlow Studios. We're making a beautiful SG for Dwayne over in America, sending it overseas. Awesome. Loads of orders coming in. If you've got an order, please get hold of me, milowstudios@hotmail.com, and let me know what you've got in mind. If it's weird and wonderful and I think it'll be good on the channel, I'm well up for building it. So some things that you could do with doing a bit of logic. Are you ready? I'll spill this out. Bit of logic, things that you could do with having, all right? A decent set of templates. They don't have to be posh plastic ones. You can get MDF ones, but get yourself a set of templates to work with all the way through. That's number one. Also, I've got an SG body here, so I can copy the curves nicely. I'll show you how I do that probably in the next episode. Won't get that done today. The other thing you could do with having, if you're doing a Gibson style guitar, is have a Gibson style guitar. I'll go and get one. Naturally, I've got my chibs in here. Now, this guitar is set up perfectly. It's intonated perfectly. So I can use that as a reference for bridge positions. I can make measurements. I can make sure that everything I'm doing is copying this dimensionally. I know that this all works. So all I've really got to do is recreate it over there. If you're making a Gibson guitar, Gibson style, make sure you've got one at home. Obviously, I'm liking this guitar. So I've retopped the Les Paul barrel top that I had the stupid bridge on from an early series. An itch scratcher. I wanted to be an inventor, like fucking Wallace and Gromit. It went well, I set it up. It was a pain in the ass, and really, yeah, it was always going to get recapped. So I've recapped it to match this one. I might sell this one as well. I'll keep you posted. So this bridge on these bodies, whether you put the screws at the back or at the front, Gibson's done it both ways themselves. It don't really matter. I actually prefer the back. But when that bridge goes on there, what a lot of people don't realise is that there are between 2 and 3 degrees on the wonk. And that is to help with intonation. So just to recap, a little bit of simple maths. Simple maths. The position of your bridge on any guitar is from your nut to your 12th fret, which is 313 millimeters. At this scale length, which is an amount of milli-inches. We won't go into that, I don't know. Do your own calculations. And then from there, it needs to be the same distance to the saddle of your high E. Technical, innit? I tend to set my high E saddle right in the middle of the bridge. And then that is going to be 2 degrees out. There you go, that's the maths, all right? If you get that wrong, then obviously you're going to be outside of the realms of intonation and you'll be fucked. So off comes our neck and goes to the side. Here comes a nice template. Now the template shows me all the classic positions. So I can lay that one on. Someone did comment the other week, oh, you should stop using silly memes in your videos. It's the only thing holding you back. Well, Patrick Stewart's got something to say about that.
Oh, fuck off!
I'm such a tease. Such a tease. So the other thing I'm just going to go through is the fact that when I get out my humbucker in the classic position, it's going to leave me a nice little gap down there, which I quite like the look of that. So I'm happy with where that is. You can put a little mark where your fretboard's going to end. I've redone my centre lines on this body. This is a glue-in neck. Fender necks, sometimes if things are on a little bit of a wonk, you can literally give it a shove and it's fine. Brilliant bit of design work. Not quite so good for glued in stuff. So just to clarify, I have retraced my lines from the neck. I've double checked my centre line from those marks. So I now know that everything here is super accurate and that is what I'm going with. And we should have some nice equal string pulls. New humbuckers need to stay wrapped up. Ask me how I know. I'm going to use my Gibson, admittedly Les Paul template, but that's not the end of the world. I'm going to line up the position for my intonation, which is on that pin right in there. And then this one is going to naturally give me the right position elsewhere. I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to route out my humbuckers because I might as well. It's all on there. And I'm going to pilot these holes out. You've got to be careful when you're drilling burr and epoxy because occasionally it will give you a bit of a wonk. Right, this is Unico worktop tape. Focus, you fecker. Double-sided tape is usually used for sticking on the edgings of worktops, where people used to use contact adhesive in the olden days. But it's really good and it's really strong. Available at your local kitchen or hardware supplier. So I'm going to put a few spots of this on. I'm definitely not putting too much on because it is really bloody strong and it's a nightmare to get off. That was a good one, wasn't it? Well planned, well planned.
The guy is a wanker.
That is not going anywhere. That tape is really good. And more importantly, I'm not going to get any sideways wiggle room. When you're trying to line up these centre lines, make sure that you're looking from directly above because it will lie to you. Right, I'm going to drill this out and get some humbuckers. Humbucker holes 20mm deep, that's all you need to do. 20mm! I'll do a bit of speedy uppy. You don't need to see a lot of drilling. Right, so that's all drilled out. Let's get this one off without... See what I mean about that tape? That's bloody strong stuff. We're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to mount the bridge. So the next port of call is to get these sat in. Have a little measure of your ferrules. 12.1. So really, I want to go 11.5. Right, I can have a clear up now and we can move on to the next stage. Simple when you know how, or when you're at least trying to make it look like you know how. I'll see you after a tidy up.
One eternity later.
Right, so this bit, we've got a little bit of thinking to do. I'm going to do it in a way where you can all have a go yourselves without too much equipment. I've got my neck pressed in, it's fairly tight, lovely jubbly. I've got my bridge, I'm going to wind that out about 1mm. Not a lot, just 1mm, all right? Because we want a bit of play either way. Colin the decorator's back on again. I'll put a photo in this time because he really has got a face that could kick in the bollocks. We've got 1mm to play there. I need to put a straight edge on my neck. And I need to figure out how much of this we've got to lose. We've got to lose, right? I've got a 1.6mm-ish fret going on, and we're going to have a 1.6-ish, 1.4mm action. So let's do it. Let's do our calculations in plectrums, in picks. There you go. There's a 3mm pick, 3mm worth of picks, which I have measured. I have done accurate. I've done it accurate.
I'm kind of retarded.
And we'll bung them on the top of the neck. There's our 3mm. You can do this after you've fretted, really, if you want. Don't really matter what order you do these bits in. I'm going to sit my straight edge on there. That simulates the bottom of my string height. Whew! Fucking get the maths going. Now I can measure down to my saddles. The other thing you need to consider is the fact that we're going to angle our neck, aren't we? So again, I'm just trying to think of a simple way that you can do this at home without getting too crunched up in the maths, all right? And we're going to do it with half picks. This is a 1.2mm pick. That neck pocket needs to be angled about 1.2mm max. So I've cut these picks in half and I'm going to sit them in the neck pocket. And then when we pop that one down, that's going to simulate our angle. Make sure you're nice and pushed in and you're not touching at the end and it's not giving you a false reading. Someone else has done all the maths. You don't have to do the maths. We've got a Les Paul over there. We can have a quick look at that. You can see that a Les Paul sticks up about the thickness of the binding, which is the thickness of the fretboard. There you go. There's your visual cue. We'll just go with that, shall we, for now? Follow me. Follow me. Thank you. Thank you, camera one. Give Dave a round of applause on camera one. He's a lovely boy. There's no one there. I'm going to measure down to my saddles. I've got 13mm. I'm going to measure down from the bottom of my fretboard to my body, and hopefully it's very similar. 13mm. You can't fucking make it up. So 13mm on an angle off the bottom of that. Bosh. Easy. Keep all that nice and safe. We've got to take 13mm off from about that line. And there's me line. Simple. I think I would rather take it out of the neck pocket next time, but we'll do it. We've done it this way now, haven't we? We're fucked. But I can hold that nice and square on the chop saw. We're still nice and square, and we'll cut that. I'll film that bit, because if it goes wrong, it'd be priceless for you. Heartbreaking for me, priceless for you. Shall we go over? Well, I didn't like doing it that way very much. I'm definitely going to angle the neck pocket next time. But if I press that one in, and we get him pushed in, I've got the thickness of my fretboard sticking up, which is just like our Gibson one that we're copying. I do prefer this method. It's very cool. It's more interesting to build than a fender neck. Bang on. Here we go. We're happy with that. I'm happy. Are you happy with that? I'm happy with that. We've got our angled. Everything's looking spanking. Woo! So there you go. You can measure things with picks. It doesn't have to be rocket science. I did make that look a bit harder than it fucking is then, I've got to be honest. But actually, next time I'll angle the pocket and that'll work a lot better. I'll fine tune that. Between me and you, I had a couple cuts on the chop saw. I didn't go too far too soon and I made sure I was right and everything was, you know, looking good. We went bit by bit. I was more cautious than I might have you believe. I fucking muddled through that bit. That was mad. Fender necks are twice as simple as this style, but that is looking cool. So now we've got to profile this neck. The last stressful part, really. Should we get that done today? I think we should get that done today. So we're looking pretty sweet. Everything's in and positioned. It does help having a tight neck pocket, but now we've got to move on to this bad boy and we've got to profile it. And I've got a new technique. You're gonna like this. It's fucking terrifying. I'll see you over the router table. Right, bit of a backstory. I used to use my neck jig up here, which is a great tool. It's a good little project if you want to build something in your workshop that's not a guitar. Saves you a lot of money and time, but you can destroy necks with it pretty easily. So I'm always on the lookout for something a little bit less wary, right? This is a Stumac radius gauge for different Fender necks or different guitar necks. Like, it's loads of them. This is a 1992 Fender profile. My favourite. Don't know why I'm wobbling it in your fucking face. Have a bit of that, you prick. So, 1st fret, 7th fret and 12th fret and all the rest of it. Here's a Fender neck. You can check it yourself and the profile. I mean, this Fender neck's a bit traditional, but it gets you there or thereabouts, right? That's what you want. So I'm thinking, how the fuck do I cut them? Is there a router bit available? Yes, there is. I'll do a proper video on it later, but you don't need any jigs. You just need a router table. So over here is where it is. So we zoom in on here, and here is El Terrifio. What an absolute whopper of a router bit, for fuck's sake. They're about 30 quid each. Brilliant. From SJE Tools. I'll do a video and the link and everything. I'm not sponsored. Texas Toast has done a video on these before. They're pretty good. I've done some samples. I'll show you. I had some laminated up bollocks that I was using for some signs, and I used it on that earlier on, and it's done me a nice little service. You've still got to do all your shaping on the ends. You can't get too close with the router bit, but your main shaft, Your shaft will be straight. According to Mrs. Richards, bent ones are better, which is a shame because mine's fucking as straight as that. But we won't go into that. That's my own personal problem. There's counselling. So if you've got a neck to hand, whatever one you're shaping, you've got one there. When you're faking it in, you can copy it, can't you? And you can go bit by bit. So I'm going to go into a bit of detail now. Second half of this video, we're going to be shaping the neck and getting it and profiling it and getting it all lovely jubbly. Getting the headstock profiled, and then we should have a neck which is the correct shape, ready for some frets and final sanding. That's the aim of the game for this video. 22mm for a strap neck, 22mm. Some are 21, some are 22. Ibanez, fucking, I don't know, 6mm for an Ibanez Wizard. But we're not going to go that thin. We're going to aim for about 21mm, 22mm. Some necks will taper. A lot of necks are just parallel. You wouldn't notice anyway, that millimetre difference. I like a parallel neck myself. It feels faster at the top, slower at the bottom, which apparently is, there's lots of apparentlys in it. So my neck blank, and I've made sure my fretboard is nice and straight. 23.6. I want to go to just over 21. So we've got to lose 2.5mm. So let's set this one up over here. Now I've had to glue a little bit on here, a little bit there. In hindsight, I should have done this before I angled the neck. But there you go, I didn't fucking do that, so it doesn't matter. So I've had to glue a little bit on there to make sure that my neck is parallel with the table. And in fact, I've gone 1mm more. So I've got 48 that side, 49 that side. So it means I am gonna have a slightly tapered neck. And you can see that that has given me a banging profile. I got a little bit worried there. I'm going to go a little bit further up the neck. I'm going to go another fret up the neck with the profiler. I'm going to leave that as it is and shape that in Nurse Gladys Emmanuel. But anyway, I'll just finish this off. Now we're on to a bit of shaping. I normally wash over this bit, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail because we're using a different technique. So here's a quick rundown. I've got a block of shit hanging off the end of my bench, which is nice and secure. It's a little bit thinner than the neck, so I can get around it and I can work my magic on my wood. Euphemisms all completely fucking intended. The tools of the trade for me were chisel, mind your jugular, chisel, hammer. Borrowed that one off Mr. Sutcliffe. I'm sure he won't mind. I said, stop. It's hammer time. The Shinto rasp, the ultimate tool for luthiers. If you don't own one of these, you can't call yourself a woodworker, according to YouTube. And a wishy-washy file, which is an Issey Miyake file, which is, I don't know the fucking name of it. Wakanda, we'll call it a file of Wakanda. I don't know the name of that one. It's very nice, takes a little while. Mr. Crow uses one, so naturally the whole internet now uses one of these. Obviously I haven't got a Gibson neck, have I? Because they're glued in. But I've got a Fender neck, and you can get an idea for shapes and contours and how it should feel. I have thickness down to the point where I've got to my volute. And the reason I've done that is so that I can then match it on the other side, which is what I'm going to start with. And it is just a case of chisel, chisel, nibble, nibble, a little bit at a time. You can take woodeth off, you cannot put woodeth back on. There's a saying for you. Between me and you, I don't carve a lot of volutes, so I've got no idea how this is going to look. Get rid of the hammer if you want, just shape him in.
Just tap it in.
Just scrape him back. Bit by bit. I've got my gauge here, my first fret gauge, which I know is going to be, we're going to work our way through that. So I've got to get that one to fit, and I'm going to use that to shape my volute as well. I'm looking from every angle to try and make sure my lines are all faking in. Like I can see lumps and bumps. It's nice that I've got a stripy neck because I can literally eye everything in. You get the fucking gist, don't you? I'm going to keep blasting away now and keep shaping this. I'll take it on and off. I'll feel it. I'll rub it. I'll caress it. And then when I've dried myself off later, we'll come back on the bench and we'll go through whatever carves I've come up with. The heel carve, I'm going to get pretty close. I'm going to stay about 15 mil away from the body and shape it in. Then once I've glued it to the guitar later, I might do some more fettling to fake that in and make it a little bit sexier. Don't know yet. Might make it a little bit more beautiful. But for now, we'll just get it rough shaped, sanded and looking pretty pucker, and we can move on to the next stage. I'll see you back on the bench. I don't know about you, but I've had enough. I'm hungry. I've got an empty stomach. I'll see you next week. Same time, 3 PM Friday. Unless you're somewhere else in the world, then you'll have to do a bit of maths. Bye.